dope with the Black Panther shirt. I see you, man.
Yeah, that's my thing. The whole comic book thing is my thing, man.
Yes.
All right, man. I think we're all set.
Okay, yeah, this has been a little bit in the making, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm interested to see, kind of what feedback you get, or even that I may get. Just because, I typically don't share a lot of stuff. I share a lot of photos and videos, but I have some hot takes sometimes. So sometimes things that I have to say or share, are contrary to popular, belief about athletics and bodybuilding and things. So
yeah. Well, first I was gonna start off with. So you're in where, Hawaii?
Yeah. So I'm in Hawaii. I'm actually there's just Pearl Harbor right behind me. We live really close to there. It's a nice park near my gym. So I figured I would step over here.
Yeah. What brought you over to Hawaii, man?
My job. Yeah. So we've been here about 4 years. So I used to work in Denver and was working as a supervisor, and they promoted me to a warehouse manager position out here. They pretty much came and asked me one day, hey, would you consider working in Hawaii? And I was like, I don't know. And then he was like, you got 24 hours to decide. And
So they just, so it was just like, hey, you want to work in Hawaii, and that was it?
Pretty much, yeah. And if I passed on it, one day later, they would have moved to somebody else who was ready for promotion. That's
pretty cool. Like, did you ever have like issues? Well, I guess since you came with the job, I heard Hawaii is extremely expensive. I don't know how true that is, though. Yeah,
it's very true. It's very true. Yeah. But it's more of like it's doable for a lot of people. Like people, you don't have to be a millionaire, to live here. It's more like lifestyle change. Maybe instead of 2 vehicles, you guys operate with 1 vehicle.
Right.
Maybe instead of a real big 2-story apartment, you downsize it and make it work. So it's definitely just lifestyle changes you got to make, and it works out.
So how close are you like to the beach and stuff like that?
Pretty close. Since we're over here in the Pearl Harbor, Aiea area, it's like we're on the center. So we're like a 15-minute drive to most beaches, and then a 20-minute drive even to just like some of the further, more distant places. But it's making the decision to go to the beach is not you're not, you don't need much. Hawaii
would be like, so for me, like Florida, Hawaii, like those tropical places, that's like where I would want to live. Like that would be awesome.
There's a lot to like, man. I can't complain.
Especially like, it seems like the place where like fitness is kind of anywhere where it's hot and like more tropical. Like it seems like you'd have more motivation to stay fit, since you're probably not wearing as many clothes all the time, tank tops. And
stuff like that. You can't hibernate, so to speak. That's for sure. You can't hibernate.
So I wanted to get you on and like we talk about just stuff in general, and so like we can just dive into that video that you made about Tom PLATZ squats, right? Hack squats. So so you want to kind of like just kind of get into it. Just what do you like?
Oh yeah, definitely.
How did that come about?
I got something to get off my chest. No, for real. So I it's bizarre. So I posted that video. It's like a 30-second video from back when I was living in Denver of attempting to do that Tom PLATZ movement on a hack squat,
right? Which
is like elevating your hips, rolling all the way forward to get like maximum stretch on your quads. Great exercise, that at least I think so. And I've been doing it for years. That video, like most of my videos on YouTube, had like no views, right? So I was just, whatever. And then all of a sudden, last year, it just started getting like hits, hit. That's and out of nowhere. I don't know what it was about 2020, but everybody was interested in Tom PLATZ exercises suddenly.
That's the only like good thing that came out of 2020.
Yeah. So then it started getting comments, and I started realizing why it was getting so many hits was people were saying like, do not do this exercise. This is bad for you. You should never go knees over toes. This is too much stress. This guy's going to get injured. I can't believe somebody would suggest doing this. I mean, just on and on and on and on and on in the comment section. So, I mean, of course, I bite back a little bit. I'm just like, hey, have any of you ever tried this? Have you ever tried doing a movement like this? Do you do leg extensions? Because if you do leg extensions, it's the same exact thing. It's maximizing isolation in a certain area. And as long as you're under control and safe about it, it's an excellent exercise. And me being an example of that, I did it for 5 years. I don't need nervous knee surgery. I can squat very heavy today without knee wraps or a belt. I don't need any extra protection on my knees. And I still do this exercise at least, I don't know, maybe like every 4 or 3 leg days, I spice it in there, either to end or to warm up. So, I think it's awesome, but it just keeps coming. It just keeps coming. And so now that video has reached 18 million views, still getting comments.
That's crazy. That's crazy that it goes from 0 views to 18 million. That's insane.
18 million views, tons of comments. And most of the comments are around protecting the knees and how, I should never recommend something like this. And then there's like, they start citing. So some of the people,
you're such an irresponsible person.
Some people start citing like examples like, oh, well, this one guy, he says that this is bad for you. Or this professional trainer with all these accolades, he says you should never go knees over toes. And I'm just like, you guys are kind of missing the point. One, this is a bodybuilding movement done by a bodybuilder. And he has a different set of goals than somebody who may be training people to just be healthier or just training somebody for their first time on how to work out. That distinction is still hard to get across to folks through a comment section, right? So it just a lot of back and forth. I eventually had to shut off my YouTube alerts because it was just too much. Yeah, it was too, and they're still coming. So it's just comment after comment about knees and then it gets a little weird sometimes. So since it has so many views, some people start commenting on, okay, yeah, his legs are big, but I bet he's not big in other areas. And it's like, yo, what are you?
What does that have to do with it?
That has nothing to do with anything. Like,
but those people are just trolls. Like that has nothing to do with anything. I would just go ahead and eliminate them, block them or something.
Yeah, it's just it's like, I guess, people feel the need to watch the video, and then after watching it, they're like, okay, I know what I have to say about this 30 seconds, this 30 seconds of a leg exercise. So I did, I know you talk to a lot of people, man. What's your opinion on like knee safety training, isolation in the quads, like what do you think about that?
So start off to play kind of like devil's advocate here for a second. When I see you do that, it does visually look awkward, right? Like visually it looks awkward. It looks like something that's gonna like hurt you, right? So, but if you think about it, and you brought up the leg extensions, and that's kind of like what I was thinking as well, like leg extensions. It's the same movement, right? One is just seated, the other one is standing. So you're going downwards. So I think the real issue is going to come in when you talk about safety, and any exercise can hurt you. So I don't understand that. Like this move is dangerous, but I mean bench press is dangerous. You know what I'm saying? I don't get that like that whole concept. But to speak on safety, I think it really comes down to how much weight you're putting on. I mean, if you're talking about a regular squat and you can do, so much weight, whatever X amount of weight, right? And very heavy. I mean, if you go to an exercise like that, especially if you're new to it, if you can't expect to do the same kind of weight, right? I mean, like I would think not, right? So I don't think there's like an anatomical problem with it. I think the problem comes in is if people start trying to go too heavy for what they can manage. And then, and then like any other exercise, you can get yourself hurt. As far as like isolating, I think isolation is great, especially if you're especially if you're trying to grow some, you're growing a particular part of your body like a bodybuilder would, maybe they're weak somewhere. Isolating is the only thing that you can do. Like, I mean, essentially, right? So
Yep.
yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous that
Yeah.
some people would, even get like all worked up, right, over an exercise.
So where the consensus I think comes from, because I started thinking about like, where does that come from? Where let's say the average person, if you were to go around and ask, is your knees moving in this way bad for you? Where does that idea start? And I mean, I think it's got to start like early, where I guess, because when you first learn how to squat, yeah, of course, anybody training you or teaching you, whether it's an old sports coach or a gym teacher or something, they're going to tell you to squat in the safest way because you're brand new to it. You're young, right, or you're a teenager, right? So yeah, they're going to teach you the safest way, but then that sticks forever. And it's like, well, there's actually ways to go above and beyond, to achieve those. If you're bodybuilding or going for a certain aesthetic, you got to go outside of those lines a little bit, safely to make it happen. So that's where I think some of that starts. I don't know. I don't know if it comes from somewhere else or just popular opinion.
Yeah. So I also, as you're talking, I was kind of thinking, so sports in general, if you're pushing yourself to the above and beyond, right? Like sports in general are dangerous. So there's has to be a sacrifice of safety for achievement, right? Like, so for example, like, jogging lightly, is good for your health, but jogging like and running and sprinting heavily on a competitive level, on concrete and so forth, will tear your knees up. But if you want to be at that level, you have to sacrifice some concern of safety. So, and I know this might sound kind of weird, right? But it's like, you can't be safe and then go beyond the limit, because it's like, if you're safe, the concept of safety, it means that you're not moving beyond those barriers, right? So it's like you're being safe, you're holding back, and it's like, that's great for somebody who's just getting into just training a little bit here and there. But if you're at a certain point, you want to progress, right? You don't want to be so, and at that point you have to make a decision to to sacrifice maybe a little of safety for a bigger gains. That's, I mean, you can't be safe all the time. It's impossible. Like
yeah. I guess with that suggestion, you walk in the gym with a belt on, elbow wraps on, knee wraps on, go and sit down on a machine, do 3 sets of 10,
right,
drink some protein, it's not going to get what a lot of people are looking for, when they say, I'm going to start working out.
Right.
Yeah. And that's just what's real interesting to me. And I'm going to keep pushing, it's just interesting, a video like that and the response that I got, and I don't think there's any fighting it, but people that do come and ask open dialogue like you're having with me, then I'll take the time to explain it and say, obviously this exercise or this type of workout is not for you if you have had an injury, or if you do have knee pain, or if you do need wraps to do leg exercises. I really don't recommend this to you.
Right.
But if you have able knees, no pain, you're at that level, you're not a beginner. Yeah, it's great if you want to grow a set of wheels.
Yeah. And I mean, let's also keep in mind that, Tom PLATZ was the one doing it. So it's like, I think he would know a little bit about, growing legs and, getting to that level. So it's like, all these people that are hating on that squat, they do know that it's not like you invented it. It's like, this was somebody who was like at the highest level of bodybuilding that, that made this exercise. So
Yep. And there was a lot said about him in the comments too, like, hey, I bet he'll need knee surgery and all these things. But if you go to his Instagram today at 50 something or 60 something that he is still squatting. And he is not wearing knee wraps. He is healthy knees, so it's like, you can make up whatever you want in your mind about the person.
Right.
But none of that's true.
Well, and also like, let's talk about like how everything gets attributed to bodybuilding when it goes wrong, right? Like if you ever lifted any kind of weights, significantly, and something happens to you, it's like it's always attributed to that. Like, do you know how many
Yes.
people have knee surgeries and never lifted a weight in their life? They're carrying around a lot of body fat. That's why they have knee surgeries.
Yeah.
It's like, what would be better,
Well, also, there's the point of, not using your muscles makes them weaker too. So it's like, okay, so you're telling me I shouldn't bend my knee a certain way ever, but also I know for a fact if I never do anything healthy or movement with my legs, hiking, running, yoga, whatever it might be,
right,
then I'm gonna get bad knees still. So it's like, what do you want?
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, no matter what, people are gonna just, say whatever about it. But yeah, it's interesting how, all that works. I wanted to get your opinion too on wraps. Like, what do you think about like knee wraps and stuff like that? There's a different opinion on those. Like some people live and swear by them. Others like say it doesn't really work because it's, as you're bending the knee, it's like internal. So what did the wraps do? Did you ever use them, and do you like them?
I use wraps in the past, but I have a very strong opinion now about wraps. So I think it depends on your goal, right? So if your goal is you're just bodybuilding, you're not a pro, you're not doing competition after competition. You probably, in my opinion, right, you probably don't work out enough to need wraps. So in effect, the folks who do use the wraps every time they squat or every time they do leg exercises, the average Joe, or so to speak, they're actually you're making your knees weaker because now you're just like depending on them, right? So like I realized that fact kind of, I want to say at least a couple of years back. I mean, it's been years now since I threw my wraps away, and I'm still able to hit that heavy weight like I want. It feels great. My knees feel healthy afterward, but to put on the wraps and go for another 50 pounds on top, the difference, the gain in it is not really important for me. Where I think wraps are great is, you're competing, you're powerlifting, or if maybe you're bodybuilding, you're working out twice a day, maybe you're doing legs twice a week. Yeah, you should protect yourself so that you can keep this thing going. But I see way too many people who aren't in that situation using wraps, and I'm like, dude, you're just making your knees weaker, and the wraps are doing more work than your body is. So you're wrapping them up, and then you're wondering why your legs, what I see most of the time, they're not getting bigger, they're not getting stronger. You need the wraps to do 135 on a squat, and it's like, what are you doing? Lower the weight and take the wraps off and build your way up to that 135, instead of just walking around the gym with knee wraps on. I definitely have very strong opinion about it.
Yeah, so wraps essentially, like, they would, and I've never used knee wraps. So they stiffen the leg. Is that what it is? Like it's almost like a compression shirt for like weightlifting, similar.
Yeah. That compression. So the best wraps, right, are the ones where you can't even sit down when you wear them. So that's how what's doing the work, right? Somebody will say, I just got these new wraps. I'm like, oh, let me see. And they're like, yeah, these ones are so good. I can't even squat down with 135 on my back. And I'm like,
what? It like springs you up, like almost. So when you put the weight on.
Yeah, you like need the weight to be able to go down, but it's like, okay, what's doing the work?
Right.
Is your body, or is your muscles, is your glutes, are they actually getting the work, or is it just that you have this, this need for putting more weight on the bar?
Yeah.
And again, I'm just talking about what I would call most people you see who are training and not competing.
Yeah.
When it comes to people competing and stuff like that, you need those wraps and things to protect yourself. So I remember like when I competed, how dry your muscles get after you do a show. And then let's say you're preparing for another show, like 2 months from then, that dryness and then filling back in and dry and then fill back in, you're at serious risk of an injury in the shoulders, in the knees, in the back, where, you definitely need to protect yourself. But that's not that's like 9% of people that are in the gym.
Right. And I also wonder like how much of that is like the fitness industry just pushing products to, like making it seem like people need them when they really don't. I mean, there's a whole, area, like we can go into supplements and stuff that like, I don't know what your opinion is on that, but it's like, how much of that do you really need? And how much of that is like really helping you and beneficial for you, So it's one of those
like
things.
I get that's a good example. Like I get asked questions all the time, and I'm always willing to help folks. Like, I mean, I'll type up a quick workout plan for someone who's like, hey, I'm just getting started. I say, hey, follow this and let me know what you think, and then let's get back and just let me know how you feel about it. But I'll get asked about stuff like, hey, like what do I need? Like what do I need to get? And I'm like, you don't need to get anything. They'll say, hey, well, do I need to get glutamine? Do I need to get BCAs? I'm trying to get big. And I'm like, just, you need to like baby step your way before you need something like that. Yeah. So like, for example, BCAs, like I said earlier with the knee wraps, most people don't exercise enough to need BCAs. So BCAs is that great recovery, which someone who's ready to getting ready for a show, they're probably working out in the morning and at night. 5-6 days a week, one rest day, if that. And it's like after workout after workout after workout, you need something to help you recover. But if you're working out 3 times a week and that exercise is just an hour and a half, maybe with some cardio and stretching and abs, you don't really need BCAs. You just need to keep eating healthy, stay on a good meal plan, eating frequently. But buying a $30 tub of BCAs and drinking that every night is not really, it's not doing anything against you, but it's kind of like a waste of money because in my opinion, you don't need it.
Well, that also gives you like extra calories. You probably, it's if you're trying to lean out, that's probably not the way to go, so.
Yeah. Same thing with other stuff like creatine. I don't usually recommend that to folks. It's like if you don't know how to really use it to make gain and then flush out your system, you just drinking creatine just to drink it. You see it all the time, right?
Yeah, I remember when creatine, like, I don't know if it first came out, that might have been before my time, but like first time I got a hold of it, like from GNC and stuff, it was just like this white chalky powder. And I put it in orange juice. And I think I was in like school or high school, like early high school or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy, like how, how long these things have been around. But I will say, like, I mean, creatine is one of the few supplements that actually has like recorded, true tested, like benefits. Like it really works. Definitely. It really does work. So it's one of the few ones, that and probably protein. So like if you had to pick one, what one supplement you would recommend to somebody? Like if I would, for an average person.
Yeah, I would definitely tell anybody, just get yourself a basic protein. You don't need a protein that is 50 grams of protein per serving, because a lot of that is just waste, right? So the reason why I recommend protein is because you're probably not eating enough. It's really hard to eat the protein that you need in one day, whether it's you worked out, you ate breakfast and you came to work, and then you need another dose of protein because you've already burned through that. So yeah, having a morning shake, that's great. Or having a shake right after you work out, then you go home, you shower, maybe you relax a little bit, and then you go eat another meal. Yeah. So yeah, protein, the whey protein, even casein or isoprotein, all of that it's the convenience of it. That's the best part.
Right.
But it's not something that you should like rely on for whatever your goal is. Like whether you're trying to gain weight or lose weight, you need to be able to have something frequent to get that protein in. Like if I could, I'd have somebody follow me around and just like grill up chicken breasts everywhere I go. And I would just say, hey, hit me with another one. Like,
Yeah.
All right, hit me. And I would just eat it real quick. Right.
Well,
but
then you would have way like too much luxury because you're already living in Hawaii. You're like, you have great weather. You're over here, got your glasses backwards, you're looking real cool in a tank top. And then if you had a personal chef, that would just really complete the whole thing, but
yeah, I think the only one who has that is like Dwayne Johnson. He's pretty much
yeah.
the only one who's got that. He doesn't really need to drink protein. He probably does, but he could have somebody just hit him with a steak every now and then. And yeah, he's good.
With a snap of fingers. Yeah. What about like what are your thoughts on the window, like anabolic window that's always talked about as far as protein is concerned? Like in the past, and even people now, I think still kind of mention it, that protein is best consumed 30 minutes after training.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm by no means like a expert, right? But I just know, like, in practice, what I feel typically happens is like you're like when you exercise, it's like jump starting an engine, right? And so like that engine is still running soon after you exercise. The reason why the engine turns off though is because then your body's looking for somewhere to get that hard calories and nutrients. But eventually your body will say, okay, you're not gonna eat, you're not gonna give me no protein, so I'm gonna start pulling that from this great muscle I got right here in the legs, in the arms, in the chest, wherever. So to avoid, like, I guess your body using that for energy, you need to flush in that protein. The same reason why you would, if you eat simple carbs after you work out, it's because your body's looking for it. And yeah, you want to throw that in if you're not trying to lose weight, because that engine's like running, so to speak. That's why, like, probably for most people, after you do cardio and workout, you're probably really like physically like hot, like well after your workout, and that's because you've kicked that on. So yeah, giving it protein instead of giving it something that's probably heavy in fat or something like that is going to be way better for you. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. You got to get it in quickly before your body starts pulling nutrients from somewhere else.
Yeah. It's interesting that like how protein now has like so many different varieties, right? Like you have like whey isolate, you have casein, you have like all the some of them are even like hydrolyzed or whatnot. So like I don't know. What do you think about like all these different types of proteins? You think they're about the same? Because I will say this, there's a lot of people that will promote their proteins because it's like, oh, well, it's isolized, so it's more pure and so forth. Do you think that any of that like actually makes any difference?
I really don't. Like, I guess probably the way I look at a lot of stuff when it comes to nutrition is there's always new stuff coming out, or like new technology and science in the food, but the body has never changed, right? So the human body it's still the same as it was years ago, right? So it's not, you probably don't necessarily need the newfangled thing that's probably going to cost you $60 a tub. Whereas if you're getting protein in and it's somewhere around 25 grams for most people, that's about what you can absorb. Getting in 40 grams of protein is just kind of creating waste for yourself. You're not going to actually use that. It's like the average person isn't able to absorb that much protein in one meal.
I remember when I was younger, I would like, there's the same phase as when I first got into like creatine and stuff. I was just really going gun ho, like young guy, just trying to like train hard all the time, take everything I could take. So I was like just chugging protein like left and right. So I went to the doctor, and they do a urine check or urine sample, and they like saw protein in my urine. So immediately, they're concerned because they're like, you're young guy, there's protein in his urine, like kidneys, we got to check his kidneys, right? So like kidneys were normal, but then I did kind of back off from the protein. And I think it goes to the point where you were saying like there's only so much that you can absorb, and then the rest gets expelled. And so but so of course it gave him like a false reading of like, but they wanted to make sure my kidneys were, I was in renal failure at like 17 years
Yeah.
old or whatever. But
Yeah, it's like, I guess all the
crazy.
marketing wants you to believe that, more protein means more muscle, or, more protein means more abs or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't work like that.
Do you train abs?
I do. So I typically train abs like when I'm doing like my at home garage workouts type thing. But by train abs, I mean doing very very concentrated movements and making and tightening and everything like that. But I know mentally that, yeah, training abs does not equal six pack, right? The only time I ever had that washboard or whatever was when I was competing, and
Right.
that came from the diet. Like, my training has never changed, so the only way that I can actually hit that, and I think most people, is, yeah, it's going to be through your strict diet, and that competition prep. But yeah, like, sit-ups don't equal abs, right?
10 minute workouts with your sit-ups, so that you're not gonna get
So,
you're not gonna look like The Rock or
yeah,
anything like that. No.
yeah. Like, I actually think where I benefit from my abs is, I know my abs are weak whenever I'm doing so compound movements. So for example, like military press, deadlift, squat. I do all of those movements in the gym, and you use your abs for all of them, and you need your abs for all of them. Or even I know a good one is front squat, right? Front squat, you can really tell if you need to work on that ab tightening abilities, because you need them in order to hold that weight right here and keep your back up straight. So yeah, like, I do that work to help me with those exercises. It's not necessarily for, I want a better waist, so I'm going to do abs right here in my garage.
Yeah. It's more like core exercise, I guess, or you could say that to develop and strengthen your core, like to make sure those other exercises are performed appropriately.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the abs are there for everyone. Whether you're 350 pounds or you're 150 pounds,
Yeah.
we all have them. They're all there. Just, whether they're covered or not, depends on the diet. It depends on the diet.
The calories you're putting in. You remember Brandon Williams? He was
Yes.
he's a pro
Yes.
at our gym
Yep.
in Nashville, and
yeah, he looked good, man. He was a freak of nature.
Yeah, he was a smaller guy, but I mean, he was, when he was on stage, he looked phenomenal. And I talked about abs with him a while back, and he was the same way. He was like, I don't train abs. Like, what do you mean? I just cut my body fat. Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
it. Did you hear that the Nashville NAC shut down?
I did not.
You
I
did
did not hear that.
Oh,
Wow.
I thought I didn't even bring it up because I thought you would already know.
Oh shoot! Wow. So last time I was there was, man, it was actually before my son was born. We were there for a baby shower, and I took a stop by there, and it was surreal for me. So that was 2019, towards the end of 2019. Yeah, and it was still open then. So I'm guessing COVID got it.
So I think it probably impacted them. They also said that like the guy that owns the building wasn't willing to work with them, which I don't really know what that means. I think he was charging more than they wanted to pay. So either one way or another, either COVID or something else maybe related to it financially, put them out of business. It was like I was online and I checked my email, and then I got an email like, we're officially closing. It was the first of the year that they closed. Yeah. So they moved this over to 1440. I don't know if you know that gym. It's like it was right across the street, but
Oh yeah, yep, I remember that one.
Dude, it was so small, and with the influx of all the people, I literally walked in with my wife. We looked around, and we both were like, this isn't going to work. We tried to work out. It was like a line of people for machines. Like you would have like two people that are waiting like to get onto the machine that's being used. I'm like, no, this is not for me. This is not for me. But the interesting thing is about NAC is that Aaron Singerman bought the building now, and Aaron is the owner of Redcon. So
Oh, wow.
they're building a Redcon gym there now instead of NAC. So they're supposed to, I guess they're going
Okay.
to open, maybe next year or something like that. But
Yeah, that place is too good to let slip away. I
yeah,
mean,
it's
the
it's
facility
it's
was
a great
awesome.
location too. It's like it was, well, for me it's great. I don't know for other people, but for me it was like perfect. It was close to the house and everything.
Yeah, and all the stuff that gym had. I mean, it just went on and on and on, like all the
Yeah,
different things you could do with it. And obviously, perfect gym if you're bodybuilding. I mean, they even had the tanning there. They
yeah,
had, they had areas to go pose and set up for that.
right,
A lot of gyms kind of miss that mark where it's just too tight in there for
right.
people to spread out and actually like practice their poses. Get away from the group a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They actually built a posing room after you were gone.
Oh
They actually
man.
had a posing, like an actual room that you can go into and pose and stuff instead of, dropping your drawers in like in the middle of
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I know that all too well. over there over there on the side. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. And then they got together with a CrossFit thing and they turned half of that basketball court into like a CrossFit area and stuff. It was pretty cool. Yeah. But supposedly this Redcon gym is gonna be dope too. The one they have in Florida is ridiculous. Like it's so
It-
good.
yeah, I've seen it in so many videos, just like some of the equipment that they have in
Yeah.
there, stuff I've never even come across before.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and I even when I lived in Denver, I lived right down the street from Armbrust. I don't
Mhm.
know if you know that
I
gym, but
don't. Yeah.
that's Phil Heath's gym.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so there's a lot of pros and stuff there, and they were kind of like that. They have just equipment that you were like, wow, like never seen that before,
Yeah.
but I'm definitely gonna use it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I miss it.
there's a lot of stuff out there that I just see in videos, like I've never come across, especially like in those like high end gyms. I'm curious to know like what kind of the membership. It probably costs you an arm and a leg to go there, but I guess
Yeah,
if you want to do it, if you want to pay for it,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
there.
yeah.
So I was gonna get into a Q&A section. Grab some
Awesome.
quick. We didn't have too many, but a few. Okay, so the first one is: Do you think Phil Heath will repeat? I think they meant like, well, he didn't win last year, so I think they mean, will he ever win again? Do you think that Phil Heath will ever win again?
Man. Hey, well, hey, let me ask you this: what was your opinion of his placement?
Uh, I think. Let me say it. I
His
think
placement
I
this
think
last
his
year.
placement was third, right? So was it third? Did he get third?
It was third,
I think you
and
could
it
have
was
done worse. I think they gave him that third.
okay. You and I agree on that. I think they were like doing him a favor or something.
Right.
Because when I looked at even going further down the line, if you just kind of look at like take one shot,
Hmm.
like the front double by or the rear lat, uh, yeah, I don't I don't know what had them doing that. I mean, obviously he struggled with his what was it, a surgery that he had?
Yeah, I
Um,
think it was a hernia, something. He had some kind of like hernias that he had fixed in that midsection area. And so
it showed,
I
man.
still saw it. I still saw it. So like he lost to Roden. Then then Roden, I guess, ended up having some kind of issue. I don't know if you heard about that. He had that
Yeah,
sexual assault case that's pending. So he's been kind of removed
yeah,
from the
he was.
IFBB. Yeah. So then after that, Phil went and got the surgery done. Supposedly he was going to get it fixed. So that's why everybody's like, okay, well, he's going to come back. That was really the only issue. He came back worse. He came back worse. He actually looked smaller to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm also
Yeah.
watching on TV, but he looked smaller.
No, I agree, man. I thought that they were kind of being nice just because he had been that guy for so long.
Mhm.
They were like, yeah, okay, we'll give you third, but really there were some really good looking guys in the top six at least that I think could have contended for that.
Yeah.
Just like looking at his wheels, they didn't look the same as his arm, So I, based off of that, I mean, I think he has a lot of ground to cover. To answer the question, I
Yeah.
think he has a lot of ground to cover in order to actually get that top spot. Yeah, it's hard to say.
I was gonna shout out to Lauren. We did a podcast a while back. She's a buddy of mine, so she chimed in. So yeah, as far as I don't know, man, because the thing is that can he cover that ground? Because it's not like so you say he has a lot of ground to cover, but he's not an upcoming competitor. He's he's regressing. So it's like if he was an upcoming in any sport, right? You'd say, oh well, he's gonna have more, like he needs more time, whatever. But he's regressing. He was at the top for 7 years, so it's like, can he come back to the same place that he was before? And man, I think the midsection looked as bad as before the surgery, and now he didn't have as much, what it appeared to be, as much muscle. So it's almost like, I don't know, man. I don't think he's gonna come back. And with Big Ramy looking the way he did, and then
yeah,
and you know, Curry looked good too. I don't think it was you know.
I'm looking for. I'm still want to see William Bonac move up. You know, he always looks great, but I think because of his height, they always place him, you know, below the top 5. But
Yeah,
I really like him. Yeah, he's definitely a lot shorter than most of the guys. But his overall, compared to the other guys, to me, proportionally, yeah, I think he looks great.
Yeah.
The other one too is McMillan. So he didn't compete in 2020. So they're looking to see if Cedric is actually going to come back in 21. So, and I'm a huge fan of him, huge fan of his posing. Like his posing is one of the best in my opinion. But yeah, well, I guess only time will tell.
Yeah. I mean, Cedric has a good look. He has a really good structure, nice build, very aesthetic. He seemed to not do well in Olympias, specifically Olympias. Like, I don't know why. I don't know if some people think Olympia is really structured towards the biggest mass monster, and he's huge, but you know, compared to some other ones, so I think he just looks better aesthetically, and which kind of brings us to another question. Lauren said it wasn't Phil's year. Yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't Phil's year, but I don't know if he's ever going to have another year. Well, I guess we'll see, you know, but
yeah.
But yeah, and Curry is here in Nashville too. Curry is got his gym.
I saw him train, you know, when I lived there and was training and everything. Yeah, I mean, and he's getting better every year. You know, he got really good after he went to the Middle East and trained with those guys for a while.
Yeah. I mean, they obviously know, you know, what they're doing up there, but I don't know if he's going to go back to them. I think he's probably done with that, especially with COVID and, you know, not seeing your family for that long. I think that's, you know, he's at a level where if he can continue to maintain and keep getting a little bit better. I see him and Ramy like battling it out back and forth. The other question is going to be what's it? The 212 flex, Lewis.
Yes.
What is he going to bring? You know, the difference he's to the game. That's going to be interesting.
And I don't know how he packs all that into 212. It's
sucks
like
down, man. He sucks down a lot.
It's incredible. Yeah, it's incredible how 212 pounds and you look like that on stage.
Yeah. But he's another guy that's on the shorter end, you know. He's not a real tall guy like Bonac, and you know, how are they gonna now he has clout though, because he is how many times did he win 212? Forever.
Man, I mean, just like I don't know, reigning. I don't know off the top of my head, but yeah, it's enough times where he's just the guy.
Yeah, so he might be looked at a little differently than Bonac too. So, but yeah, it's interesting. So the other question was, if I remember correctly, was on the extended stomachs. Like, have you thought that was a problem? I believe the year before, a couple of years ago, Arnold made a point about how a lot of bodybuilders are now coming in with these extended stomachs to kind of look like a turtle shell, you know. It's what are your thoughts on that?
No, so I think, right, because they're supposed to be judging the aesthetic, right? So if you have a class of five of the top guys and they all have those bellies, so to speak, then it's like, well, okay, well, we're judging off of something else. But if you have someone who comes in and they don't look like that, right, that person should be moving up in the ranking, in my opinion. It definitely shouldn't be ignored. I definitely you see some guys with it and it's so far out there, it's hard to miss, and then we're supposed to be judging him, I guess, only on his arms and his back. And it's like, no, we can't ignore that your stomach is protruding right now,
Right.
like while you're trying to do an ab shot. So yeah, I definitely agree that it should be considered. Like if someone is able to reach that mass monster stage and keep it flat or keep it held in, yeah, like they should be moving up. They should be placing higher.
Yeah, and it goes to show, as far as like your opinion on Cedric too. Like Cedric doesn't have that. Like I've never
Oh,
seen that issue with Cedric. And it's like, to
no.
me, if you're comparing him against some people that would normally are placed higher than him, and they have that, like I don't see how that's possible. You know what I'm saying? How do you place somebody that looks like, they're essentially pregnant with abs over somebody that has like a slim, good look, like, pretty physique? Like I just don't see how like you could even make that call, but they do it all the time. And
Yeah,
so I thought that
I know there's a little, there's always going to be the politics or the favoritism, so to speak.
Yeah.
That'll always exist. So, but yeah, really, the judging, that group of judges should be able to come to, if somebody doesn't have that, and then on legs and back and depth can compete with someone like a Phil or whoever. Yeah, man, they should not be placed 10th or 20th.
Right.
They should be moving up.
Right. And the last question that was on there, do you think this is the year or the beginning of the years of the mass monsters? So like, do you think that now we're kind of going back to like a Dorian phase with Big Grammy winning?
I don't know, because it looks like so Big Ramy, for lack of, he's like a science project, man. Like,
read between the lines, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it makes you wonder, because I would say publicly, or the way people feel about bodybuilding and stuff today, they are moving away from that. That's the creation of the classic line, way to compete, and then all the ways physique has turned into this its own successful thing.
Right.
So I guess it really just depends on that the judges in these shows that are deciding what is more aesthetic looking, right? Mm-hmm. Someone who is just absolutely just massive monster looking, or someone with those lines where they're still big and deep in their muscle depth, but not so much like that. Yeah. Where they're like, yeah, this guy is full, but this guy is more appealing to the eye as far as on the same stage.
Yeah, I mean, I think that classic physique division is great. I mean, those guys look phenomenal.
I'm a huge fan. It's really impressive. I actually went to look, when they first came out with that, I was like, yeah, I like the idea of this, especially, I competed natural. So I was like, wow, this could be something for me. But when I looked at the weight requirement for my height, I was like, holy cow.
What is it?
I was nowhere. So like for my height, it was like 192, I believe, I believe it's like 190 or 188, something like that. And I competed at 212, and I had to drop almost 50 pounds to compete at 212. And I was like,
that's impossible. Yeah, you can't.
I need to drop 60, 70 pounds to get up there with those guys. Oh my gosh. I mean, just stick with this.
Yeah, it's also like, it can be dangerous when because your competitive nature will want you to like push, and a lot of times to cut that kind of weight, you're really, what you're doing is like dehydrating a lot of pounds off, and that, that's a slippery slope with the dehydration stuff,
Yeah. It's like for me, competing naturally, right? I'm still built to just be on the open stage, like just by the way that I'm built, and it had nothing to do with being able to even get down to that weight. I just don't see myself doing it, being able to get down there without losing mass that I want to keep.
Right. I mean, that's what would happen. You wouldn't carry the muscle. And then it's like, well, if you don't carry the muscle, you have to cut a lot of muscle. Like, it's kind of like, then why are you doing it? Then just go open, just keep the muscle, go open. That
yeah.
So,
but I definitely see public opinion, affecting, results in stages where, like even here, I've seen kind of the mass monster guy lose to the, the shredded guy. And that's kind of, I guess it goes by show to show, area to area, just depending on that judge panel on what they think is more impressive.
Right.
Someone who cut down more and has that great posing and their, and the striations and everything, as opposed to just that really big guy standing on the end. That's pretty impressive too, but not as appealing maybe to those judges.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's impressive for different reasons, right? It's like somebody who's just super massive. It's like, you can't take your eyes off of that person because they're so big, but it's a different kind of impressive, personally. I mean, I like to see somebody, if I'm judging a fitness competition, then I want the person to be conditioned, like they have to be conditioned, because if they're not conditioned, then how is it fitness? That's, it kind of loses. You can't put fitness or like bodybuilding and not be conditioned in the same sentence. They're opposites, so it's like, anyways, but
I've seen that too. Where the more conditioned guy loses to the bigger guy. And it's a shame sometimes, but that's just kind of how it goes. It's all subjective. So you never know.
Right. That's the thing. It's hard, right? Like, because bodybuilding is such a, like you said, subjective sport. Even like when you have sports in like the Olympics and things like that, and they're being judged and they're technically kind of subjective, they still have like criteria. Like I bring up the example of like figure skating, like, right? Figure skating is judged by judges, just like bodybuilding, but there's certain criteria, like you do this kind of flip or this many rotations, you get this many points. But with bodybuilding, it's like you can't really even like certain like rules, like, oh well, they're more striated in the back, or like a Christmas tree in the back. It's still subjective. Like, if somebody might say, oh well, this person has a better back, even though there's a lot of like ways you can, as a judge, you can convince yourself to pick somebody, and so it's one of those
and
things.
then there's no scale, right? So it's like maybe you have two guys on stage. One has a excellent legs, front and back, all the way around, but their back and their arms are lacking. And then you have somebody else with a huge chest, great tricep lines, and the Christmas tree on their back. And now you have to decide who is the better one, is that guy is lacking in his legs,
right?
So you have to, it's like, what does it come down to?
Yeah. Well, hey man, I appreciate you coming on, taking the time out of your busy schedule.
I'm hungry, man. I gotta go eat.
No, go ahead, go do that. Thanks again, man, and I look forward to doing it again with you.
We'll definitely do it again.
All right, catch you later, man.
All right, appreciate it.